Today we're going to talk about adding fractions. Now, why would we talk about something simple like that? The answer is that quite frequently in tutoring students, I find grade 9s, grade 10s, even grade 11s and grade 12s who don't know how to add fractions. And that makes it rather difficult for them to do more complex problems, and they may not even realize the reason they're having the problem is that they simply don't know how to properly add fractions. So let's get started. So what is a fraction? Well, when I ask students this, I get answers all over the board, but the one I most frequently get is, well, I know what a fraction is, but I can't really explain it. Well, let's see, how can we explain it? Well, a fraction is a very simple thing. It's simply a piece of a whole. Simply a piece of a whole. It could be a piece of a pizza, it could be a piece of a car, it could be a piece of a number. Okay? Fraction simply a piece of a whole. You can see from the piece of pizza that probably I'm hungry right now. Okay? So let's take a look at some fractions here. Let's take this one here. We've got 1/3. Over here we've got 1/2. Okay. Now what's the problem with adding those two numbers up? Well, the problem is that if we try to add up 1/3 and 1/2, they're different sized pieces. And we're not going to get 2/5 out of that. Okay. So how are we going to get those pieces the same size? Well, the answer is let's divide those 3's by 2 and divide these 2's by 3. Okay. Now before we go any further, let's take a look at what's called the denominator. The denominator is the bottom of the fraction. You probably all know that already, but what is the denominator? Well, the denominator tells us how many pieces a whole is made up of. That's all it does. So for example, if we've got one whole made up of 3 pieces, and we've got another whole made up of 3 pieces, and we've got one section of the first whole and 2 sections of the second whole, that means we have 3 pieces that we're dealing with out of an entire piece that is divided into 3 pieces. So the denominator doesn't change, it doesn't add up, because all it's doing is telling us how many pieces the whole is divided into. Okay? So by splitting up the diagram, you can see that we've got 1, 2, 2, 6 here, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 3, 6 here, which gives us 5, 6. So 1/3 plus 1/2 equals 5, 6. We can see that quite easily on the diagram. Okay. Now let's go to the next page. Suppose that we have the same diagram. We've got 1/3 plus 1/2. How are we going to do that numerically? Okay. Well, what we did with the diagram is we divided the 3 by 2 and we divided the 2 by 3. We divided this by 2 and we divided the half into pieces of 3. Okay, so to get a common denominator, we're going to multiply this by the 2, and we're going to multiply this by the 3, which, as you can see, is 2 over 6 plus 3 over 6, which is 5 over 6. Okay. I want you to notice one other thing here, which is, are we multiplying this side by 3? Well, sort of, but not really. Really, we're multiplying it by 3 over 3. And if you think about 3, what does 3 over 3 equal? Well, 3 over 3 equals 1, right? So what we're doing is we're multiplying this 1/2 by 1. We're multiplying this 1/3 by 1. Of course, by multiplying by 1, we're not changing it. But by multiplying it by a form of 1, 3 over 3 is actually a form of 1. We end up with the same number. We don't change the number. So we've changed our denominator so that we've got the proper size pieces, but we haven't changed the whole fraction. Okay? Okay, let's, as you can see, if you multiply 3 times 4, you get 12. You divide 12 by 3, you get 4. You divide 12 by 4, you get 3. So anytime, it doesn't matter what our denominator is. Suppose you've got 1 over 174 plus 3 over 223. Is it difficult to find a common denominator for that? Not really. All we do is multiply it by a form of 1. We're going to multiply the first one by 223 over 223. We're going to multiply the second one by 174 over 174. We take out our trusty calculator and we have no problem at all finding out what the answer to that is. Okay? So basically, in a nutshell, that's adding fractions. Hope that helps. If you have any questions, please send me a question. I'd be happy to answer it. This is Bill McGuire saying goodbye for now.